Are you getting married? Do you know someone that is? Are you wondering if you and your partner are ready to take that next step in your life, in your relationship? Do you want to strengthen the foundation of your relationship moving into marriage? If you do, Day One, the premarital program is here to help you. So if you want to kind of learn those tips, those tools, those strategies to prepare yourself for that next chapter in your life and your relationship, then give Day One, the premarital program, a try. So within this program, you are going to get those tips, those tools, those strategies. You're also going to get that guidance to help you prepare as much as possible for that next chapter. The thing about preparing for that next chapter is that there's no way to be 100% ready for the next step in your life, but you do want to be as prepared as possible before you get there. So that's where the Day One premarital program comes into play. So if you're ready to prepare and start really growing towards that next chapter in your life, in your relationship, give Day One, the premarital program, a try. Click the link below and get started today. That's the Day One premarital program, and let's get started today. All right. So welcome to another episode of Adding Perspective with Josh. I'm Josh.
I'm Coach Nrgy.
I'm Aphrodite.
All right. So we're going to talk about some things today. So the topic today is change on the road to marriage, right? Like the idea of changing certain components about oneself to merge with someone else when you talk about being married. We also going to kind of get into a little bit of friendship too. We're going to get into a little bit of that too, and how friendship plays a role in the relationship, like being friends, cultivating that friendship, cultivating that type of communication with that person that you're with. So we're going to talk a little bit about that too. So you're going to get a little double header today. That's kind of where we're leaning at. But to go into, a little bit of this, right? So the idea of wanting to get married to another person has been around for centuries. Like it's been around for a long, long time about just wanting to be married, having, that stability with that person, that longevity with that person. But I think that sometimes when we get these ideas about wanting to get married to someone, sometimes I think that we need to think it just a little bit more. Think it through a little bit, okay? Because the idea to me, and this is my perception, the idea of wanting to get married to someone is going to involve just a little bit of open-mindedness and then a little bit of just evolution or evolving a little bit. I don't want to hit these with that change part. And when you hear change, people are going to be like, I got to change. to get married. Okay. See?
Don't beat around the bush. We're going to talk straight today.
What are you talking about? I'm not beating around the bush.
Change. We're going to use the word change.
Okay. I'm not. This is the first 7 minutes of this podcast. I don't want to run people off and not listen to it, okay? Like you just said, like I want to hit them with the change first. I'm trying to put the change part on the back end, right? So you listen to, at least 30 minutes of this. You're like, oh, you said change. Okay, let me turn it off. No. Don't do that, okay? I want you to hear this whole message first, okay? Don't turn this off now. This is gonna be something you want to stay tuned to. So that idea of evolution and really altering certain components about how you relate to the other person, there's nothing wrong with that. Like there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I think that whenever you get two people in the same place wanting the same thing, everybody has that different idea of how to achieve the objective, like how to actually make it happy and continue to make it happy and continue to make it functional. And I think that's kind of why that friendship thing kind of came into play. Like, okay, we should be friends first. We should, cultivate that bond through friendship in order to kind of build the rest of that relationship.
And to me, yeah, I think people should be friends. Like, I think people should be really good friends before they get married. Like, they should know that person on a friendship level before they get married. I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. But the other component to that is that friendship part, I think it has a small downside to that too. Micro.
You said it has a small what?
Downside to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I mean, when depending on the nature of the friendship, sometimes that friendship can be a certain level of comfort that's hard to get out of. Which means that if you know a person so well, or if you know a person's like innermost thoughts like really, really well, sometimes you assume that you know what that person is thinking or feeling, and you just don't ask any questions, right? Like you just say, okay, I know what they're gonna say, or I know what they're gonna do. Just stop asking specific questions. So that's kind of why I think that sometimes that friendship thing is like it's good. It's good when it's good, but it's interesting when it's not. It is. So do you guys think that people should be really, really close friends before they get married?
I think first of all, you need to talk about what friendship means amongst each other. Like, because everybody got a different meaning of friendship.
Yeah.
So my first conversation I would suggest is asking, what does friendship mean? What's their take on friendship first? Because that's important when you call yourself becoming friends and you build in this relationship is, what's your take on? My take could be way different than the other person's take, and sometimes they might not even be on the same page of what friendship looks like.
That's fair. Yeah. So when you think of the idea of like being friends with someone, and you have that conversation about like what does friendship look like with that person, and that person's example of friendship is on a wilder spectrum than your version of friendship, then what do you do with that? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, okay, your version is, we can tell each other just essentially whatever. Like, we can sit there, we can just talk about, like, it don't matter what it is, it don't matter how it come out. It's just boom, this is take it or leave it type stuff. And then the other person's example of friendship is more reserved, like warm me up before you tell me something, or just like kind of just reserved. They don't want to hear specific things when it comes to it. Like, they don't want to hear your bowel movements or nothing like that. They don't want to know that you constipated. They don't want to know that, right? Like that's I'm just saying, some people, I'm one of those people, but like I said, like, I don't want to know that.
Really? I wouldn't mind knowing.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that, There's nothing wrong with that. Don't mind my face. There's nothing wrong with that.
Too late.
Way too late for that.
Oh, I mean, that's die hard friendship right there. That's like,
why does it bother you? Why you don't like that?
I mean, I just think that's a little much. Like, it is. Like, just to know you locked up like that. I mean, but some people go too far when they talk about it too. Like, that's the other thing too. Like, it's one thing to say, oh, well, I'm not doing too well in that area and stuff like that. But other people like describing the color of it when it come out, stuff like that. I'm like, really? No.
That's
I'm trying to eat. I ain't trying to listen to this. No. No. No, I don't want to see that in my dream. No. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see it. No. You gonna have me waking up shaking and sweating? No. No. Mm-mm. So there's a line. There's a line to what you can share as a friend. Like, but again, that could just be my own personal thing. That couldn't other people. Hey, if you don't mind hearing that, right? And if you have a strong constitutional and you can sleep good at night, hearing all your partners like things, and it doesn't change the way that you view them. That's the other part too. If it doesn't change, because there's two sides to that story, right? If you hear too much, right? If you hear too much, once they take their clothes off, right? And you start visualizing everything that they told you, hopefully that train keep going. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Like, hopefully that train is still moving in the right direction right there. Okay, because there's ways to change the perception of a person. It is, especially when you share too much of certain things. To me, I think that's something for people to consider. I mean, y'all don't think so though? Like, y'all don't think that, that sharing, oversharing could actually change the perception of a person?
No, I agree.
It can.
It can. I totally agree with that. It can definitely change the perception of a person. It can definitely change the relationship, the friendship. I think, if you are a person that has issues, or not even so much issues, but it's certain. I think you have to create the boundaries. Like, if you're not a person that can accept all what you said, Josh, then you need to create a boundary, like where to stop at.
Yeah.
But that needs to be discussed with your partner.
But at
And
what point? I'm sorry, not to cut you off.
I think it, and I might be wrong, but I think it changed more men perspective about the female than it will for the female to the male. I think. Because men tend to be they are very visual type of people. They tend to be very visual. So you know, maybe limiting a lot of things on what you say probably will help the relationship.
Yeah. So you said that's a men thing. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's not just a men thing. I just think sometimes men is more men that, especially with the visualization of you telling certain stuff, they just may not be turned on by it, like at a, you know what I'm saying? So prime example, like when they asking about y'all developing your friendship, and they ask like how many partners you had, you know. And just because she might say, I don't know what the number is, I don't know what men think the number should be, but just say, for instance, she might say 10, he might think, oh my God, she must be real hoish or something or whatever. So I just think it's a limit, and then he could be viewing her different after that point.
Yeah, I get that. I think that can go both. Do you think that can go both ways though? Like,
I'm not really sure how many women asked men how many partners they had. I don't know.
I think people tend to avoid that conversation. Like, seriously. Like, sometimes you just don't want to know.
That's fair. I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, the only time you think that you want to know is when one person or the other person start, uh, the past comes to the present per se. Like, oh, that's my ex, such and such, or oh, that's X such and such, and when a person keeps saying too many X's, you know, like then you start putting like, okay, how many X's you got? No, like every time we out, that's a different X. Oh, okay, that's starting to make a little sense now. Okay, that's only when that happens, and where people start getting curious about, okay, how many people you been with?
I don't know if I totally agree with that one, Josh.
I'm saying, right, if you are friends with a person and y'all building a relationship together, and every other time you go out, like this is every other time, not every time, but every other time you go out, you can be at the grocery store, you can be at the mall, you can be just at the restaurant, you can be anywhere. And every single time you go out, that person say, or even the other person just walks up to them, or something like that. It's every single other time. It's a different person, right? Like it's not the same person. It's a different X. It's like that's not gonna give you like a little like pause, like.
No, I wasn't saying I don't agree with that. I'm saying I totally don't agree with the fact that you were saying like most of the time they really don't ask unless the other person, you know, like those things happen. I've heard more men ask how many partners the female have had, like, and I guess that might be something of a male. I don't know, but I can get what you're saying. Yes, if every time you turn around, it's a different X, then yeah, you might want to look a little different. Like, what you got going on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I can understand that.
Energy, what you think? You gonna ask them on the first date? That's part of the checklist, right?
On the first date, nah, no. I mean, if it comes up, it comes up, but it's definitely not a required question on a first date. Nah, it's too soon. Unless they're open to it. Like to me, nothing necessarily is off limits on the first date, but you still want to kind of, fill out the person, because some first dates, you may have just only met that person earlier that day. Y'all connected in line somewhere, and then, you say somebody may ask or offer for the both of you to meet up later on that day for dinner somewhere out in public. But then if it's another type of first date where you've been communicating, with the person for weeks or even for months, and you haven't gone out yet, and then now it's the time for you all to meet together and go on that first date, then you have a little bit more time put in to where that conversation may come up. So it just, it really just depends.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I definitely see that. I think just some things, people just need to be. I think we said this in one episode today. People need to be prepared to hear the information that comes back.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you ask that question, you better be prepared. Okay. Like, that's when you talk about like how many people they've been with. Yeah. Be prepared. Okay. Because if that number is a lot higher than you was expecting, don't let it show on your face. That's all I can say. Okay, don't do that part. Okay, don't just do that. They do that. What?
Is that an important number for you, Josh?
Come again?
Huh? Like how many? Huh?
Josh, is that an important number for you?
What do you mean?
Like,
I mean, how many?
Is that a conversation like you would like to know as a male perspective?
I've asked people that. Like,
okay.
Yeah. I've asked people that back in my backsliding days. I've asked people that and stuff like that.
Okay.
Now I don't. What? We can look.
Why is there a difference?
What
makes it so different now than back then?
I've evolved. Like I've evolved.
Okay.
Like my mentality is evolved.
Meaning that the answer is no longer important to you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Cause when I was like younger and stuff like that, it was that whole idea of, a person not really not sharing that kind of stuff, but being a little bit more modest about it, I guess. Especially when it comes to like how many people a person has been with. Like, I think that I think maybe most people put a lot more weight on that uh, based on their maturity of it. Like that asking that type of question. Like to me, I think as you get older, as you get a little bit more mature, I mean that question doesn't hold it as much weight. I think to me, I don't think it should hold it that much weight.
Mm.
If that person with you now, like if that person is your friend, your person, this is like a committed type thing or whatever the case may be. Like if that number is 5 or 50 or whatever the case may be, all they ain't doing that now. You know what I'm saying? Like, all they like, sharing it out there like that. I mean, everybody got to pay it. Like, but that's just my thing. I mean, it is. But yeah, I get it that most people don't see it that way though. Yeah, that's the only thing.
So Nrgy,
Hey,
like, is that when that's a question for you, have that been a question for you, and how like do you receive it?
I don't mind it. I mean, especially
Okay.
if it's someone that, like, if we're both mutually really trying to be intentional of getting to know each other to see where the next step is going to go, as far as if we're going to get into a committed relationship or not. Yeah. Like you said, I mean, it is what it is, and it's a part of your life. You know,
Right.
so whatever it is, that's just what it is. But to me, it's just, if for me being intentional, it's something that, yeah, definitely, would want to discuss at some point, because that also lets you know a little bit more about that person, even if it's just more about their character. Yeah, everyone has a past, and it may not be a pretty number, but at least it's still because you're gathering information. When you're dating someone or trying to get into that next step of getting into a serious relationship, for me, in my opinion, you're gathering data, and data is data. You want to know who that person is. You want to know what type of past have they had. Yeah, it may be in the past, but still it tells you a little bit about the person and what they've experienced, what they've been through, how many different partners they've had. That's going to let you know how many different transferences of spirits and energy and body liquid and saliva and all of that kind of stuff. To me, yeah. What about you, Aphrodite?
did you say body liquid?
She did.
Okay, I'm
What?
sorry. I got stuck there. Did you say body liquid?
I did, because I was trying to think of the
Okay.
other word. Fluid.
Okay. 'Cause I was like, and I didn't really just get stuck on that one word, but I heard it. I was like,
Bruh. Yeah,
liquid.
I was trying to come up with it, and liquid just came out, but fluid. Yes.
Fluid. Okay.
Fluid. Yes.
Okay.
I couldn't.
I think we understood what
I
she
know.
was
I
saying.
understood it. I was like, I was trying to control.
Bro,
That's funny.
Yeah, we
It's been a
pretty
long
much
day.
understood that part.
Yeah, we understood.
my bad. He interrupted you, Aphrodite. What about you, Aphrodite?
It's probably not as important to me. If it's discussed, it could be discussed and it's okay. Would it change my perspective? No, because I know people evolve and they change and they might not be who they are. If they start displaying certain behavior, then that's a whole totally different conversation. It'll put it on alert for sure, but is it like a top question that I need to know?
What would put it on alert? What do you mean?
So when I say put the conversation, so say for instance we had the conversation and they said, certain things they did, how promiscuous they were, whatever the situation was, and then they start displaying certain behaviors. then it's like, okay, so maybe that part hadn't changed yet. Maybe we still on that promiscuous conversation that you got going on. You know what I'm saying? It might not be as prominent as it was back then, but it is certain things and certain signs. Because you can have a conversation and people can say, well, I slept with 20 people. Is that 20 people in one day? That's 20 people in a year. Like, what does that look like? That's 20 people over 30 years. Like, what does that look like? But would I be thinking about it? They say, oh, I had like 3 sex partners in one day. It's like, what? Like, so it would like make me think about why. I would ask why. Why did you have sex with 3 people in one day? I'm not even gonna lie. I would ask. What were you doing? What were you thinking? And what was going on in your life? I would ask all those type of questions just out of curiosity on where you was at that time. And then I might even ask, is that something you want to do now? So, but I have to be prepared for whatever come out their mouth, right? Mm-hmm. But if I'm gonna ask all that, then I'm gonna be prepared.
Yeah. To me, it's just a part of, we've said it many times on other episodes that communicating about sex is important. And so that's just, to me, it just goes with the conversation of sex and intimacy, expectations, things like that. So that's why I don't look at it as being this like, I don't know what term I should use, but this, this white elephant, so to speak, to where, oh, you can't ask that question. Like, once you put some time in and the both of you are looking to, get committed or be serious with each other, then those conversations are needed. And I already know somebody might be in the comments talking about, oh, well, they can lie. Anybody can lie about their number. Yeah. And that's exactly why I said whatever their answer is going to also be a part of their character, because eventually you'll figure it out. Eventually you'll find out what that truth is. You may never know the exact number. That's cool. That's fine. But asking that question, you're not necessarily looking for the answer to be in just a number. You're getting so much more information when the person does give you the answer. And like you were saying, Aphrodite, it allows you to, ask more questions and, to go deeper and to really hone in and say, okay, well, how was that for you? What made you want to do that? Is that something that you're still interested in? Are you expecting that between us? So that's just how I look at it. But I do understand that, yes, anyone can lie about the number. That's why it's not just about the number. It's so much deeper than that. And then for me, when I was answering personally as well, because I forgot to say this part, that, I hinted on it a little bit. It just also is really important because anytime that you're having some sort of sexual relation with someone else, there is a transference. And with all these crazy things that we're dealing with right now, just for me, it's just like, man, you want to be careful of who you're sleeping with, because you're sleeping with the people that they've also slept with.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, do you think that friendship is a requirement to move to the next stage in that particular relationship, to be friends? Do you think that that's a requirement? No?
I would say yes. We gotta be friends. Friendship creates a good boundaries. It creates trust. We need to be friends. Like, I'm not really sure how we gonna not be friends and have a relationship. I don't know how that works. I don't know how it works.
Yeah. Energy, what do you think? Do you think that friendship is a requirement to move to the next level?
Based off of exactly how you're asking the question, no. But is it something that should be highly considered and attempted? In my opinion, yeah, it definitely should be considered and attempted. and it's a weird question, not a weird question, but it's a question that makes you really think, because if the relationship itself is one that, ends up flourishing and is healthy and, has some sort of longevity to it, most times those relationships have some factor of friendship to them. Do all relationships have that friendship factor? No, and not all relationships work. So it's an interesting question to ask and answer.
Yeah. Oh, it is, because there are cases where there are people that are with each other that they not friends. They together, but they wouldn't necessarily call that person
Their
their
friend.
their friend.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where the lines get a little bit blurred when I talk about, like, is that like a requirement for, like, the relational type stuff with a person? Do you have to be friends with that person? Like, does that person have to be that person that you actually talk to about essentially everything? Right? That's a hard one. It is.
I think that would be it depends on the person. It's definitely gonna depend on the person. But if you're a type of person that like pillow talk and you wanna have that relationship, like that relationship with that person, I'm not really sure how they work and you're not friends.
Yeah.
So, I'm what are we, like, we associates in a relationship? I don't know. Cause I categorize people. So I'm a little bit different. You know what I'm saying? But my associates, like, I ain't having deep conversations with them. You just an associate.
Yeah, that kind of classifying those particular cases where people are together but they're not friends. Like, it's almost like you're treating those particular people like they are associates, but you're with those people. Like they're in that category from I guess a emotional conversation standpoint. They may not be in that category in all aspects of the relationship, but in small cases, small portions of the relationship, it's like that. Like, you're not gonna tell them. You might not tell that person specific things.
Mm.
But I don't think it starts off like that. Like, that's the thing. I don't think that it starts off like that. I think that if
something
yeah,
triggered that make it go
there you
that
go.
way. Yeah.
That's the thing.
A trust or something was broken in the mix.
Yeah, or something was actually used against the other person.
Yep.
Hey, it
I
was
can see
that.
that.
It take that one time. It do. That's when you just start developing that friendship, that safety, that security with that person. You get real comfortable. You start sharing your innermost thoughts with that person, your fears, your hopes, your dreams, all that kind of stuff. And then you start to notice that person that you're sharing all this information with, and this can go a lot of different ways, right? You start sharing that information with that person not sharing anything back. That's one thing. Okay. Like, you start to notice that, okay, you're doing most of the sharing, and then you ain't getting nothing being shared with you as far as about
Right.
that person. That could be one thing. The other thing is that when you start sharing that type of information, you start feeling like you start getting in your feels about some of that stuff that you're sharing with that person. And that person starts critiquing what you're saying to them. And that's not even the objective of the conversation. You just simply telling that person about yourself, whatever the case may be. And they start critiquing, like, your past, your present, even your future. That's another one of those things, right? Like, sometimes you don't want to hear that. Like, sometimes that's not what you come in to talk to a person for. That's another, on the other side of that, there's another version of that too, right? Because I'm going to try to go down all the spectrums there. On the other side of that, start sharing this information with that person, and you start feeling like that person judging you. Okay, they're judging you, and then also trying to use that stuff against you. That's the other thing. Okay, so there's three different. To me, there's three different versions of that story. That's just me, though, right? That's kind of why I think that's kind of why certain elements of building a friendship go awry when they talk about being in a relationship. It's because of those particular reasons. It could be more, but those are the ones that I can think of right now. Okay, just those. But this also goes to a point about what we're talking about, initial change when it comes to like being open-minded when it comes to how people deal with relationships, because all relationships aren't the same. Like all people aren't the same. Like one person's new person may not, obviously not gonna be the same as their last person, obviously. But sometimes you get those individuals that they operate the same way in every relationship. Like no matter if this is a new person, same person, different person, they operate the same. Their mentality is the same. The same thing. And I'm not sure if you guys ever came across that or anything like that, but I mean that's very tricky to have the same type of mentality with a different person. You know, it is. Do you guys think so? Maybe, kind of, sort of, maybe.
Is it?
Yeah, like think about it though, right? So if a person is, say for instance, a homebody, and they don't like to go out as much, but they've always been that way. But you're a person that likes to go out, and you like to be, go to the park, go to whatever events or whatever you like to go to. But you with a person that says, "Hey, this is what I am. I don't want to go out. Like I just why don't you just stay home?" See what I'm saying, right? Like that person was the same way with this person and they've done with the last person, and the person before that. I just think the changes is necessary when it comes to like being open minded with the person the new person that you're with.
It's not only necessary, like, so I'm not sure about other people, but sometimes you really need to you need to think about what actually ended the prior relationship. And if it's some things in common, like if out of 2 relationships or 3 relationships, one of the issues were I'm a homebody and I don't want to do nothing, and it didn't benefit the other person because they want to go somewhere, then the common denominator is her. So, and now you with another you're with another person that is very outgoing. Then you might want to rethink, like, do you really want to be with somebody very outgoing, or are you willing to change? Because if a person that's very outgoing and love to do things and move, they not always willing to sit at home every day, all day, every weekend. So it has to be a balance. But you also just can't say, well, that's just who I am. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah. No, you're right about that.
Yeah. But that's where most of those situations can be prevented. Maybe not all, but most can be prevented if that homebody person picks better in a sense of find someone else who has similar qualities or similar likes and dislikes as they do. So if they are more of a homebody, then during the getting to know a person stage or phase, ask those questions. And if the responses are, oh yeah, I don't like sitting at home, I like to be out every weekend going somewhere, and you know that you don't like that, then the wise choice would be to find someone else that has more similarities to you. If you are not willing and open-minded to maybe go out a couple of times with a person, and if or when they go out, don't say anything against them for going out, don't nag them about it, don't don't say anything like, oh, you're going out again. Well, you knew that that's what, who they are, that's what they like to do. And so if you sign up for that, then be ready to deal with it. Otherwise, don't sign up for it.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think people do that though is because they think they can change a person.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm outgoing, so I'm gonna make them be outgoing.
Right. Right.
Yeah, like, hey, that happens, right? Like, you may not like a person's the way that they dress or style or something like that, and anytime you're in the store, you're like, hey, let me buy them a couple pieces or something like that, and try to sneak it in there on them and stuff like that. Big mistake. Okay, don't do it. Okay.
Right. Because then when they don't wear that item and it sits in the closet,
with the tag
your
still
feelings are
on
gonna
it.
get hurt.
Yep. It is. Yep. So that's just past 30 days. You can't get that money back for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it ain't. Hey, it's there. Okay. Money's gone. Okay, it's gone. Can't do nothing with that. But I think that a large portion of like change and being prepared for the next level in relationships and cultivating friendships and really just kind of building that bond with the other person, it has a lot to do with to me, I think a stage in life thing, like where two individuals are in their life and two people knowing exactly what they want, right? Like what they want out of their life, but also what they want from the other person, like what they actually want from them, or what they need from them. Not necessarily just wants, but needs from that particular person. And hopefully, if a person is in that stage where they're cultivating this friendship, they are talking about what they need from a person. Like they are having those types of conversations with that, and just not assuming that the person has the same mentality when it comes to like a friendship. Like they have that same mentality of, this is my version of friendship, kind of like what Aphrodite was saying earlier. This is my version of friendship versus this is their version of friendship. Have that conversation too, okay? Like, what does that look like? Okay, this is your version, this is my version. How are we gonna blend that, right? Like, how are we gonna put that together? If we want to be friends or be more than friends, we're going to have to blend that. Like, there's be some type of compromise in that. That's just what I think it's part of being with or learning new things about a person is being able to share things about yourself. Being okay with that.
And I like how you said it's important to know yourself, because when you know yourself enough to know, like, is it really blendable? Don't trick yourself. If you know yourself, then like some things you may not could tolerate. And don't force it where you think you could tolerate it, and then it becomes a problem because you knew you couldn't tolerate it in the first place.
Yeah. Ain't that right, Nrgy?
That's right.
I just needed your cosign. That's all.
Don't worry, I got you.
Hey, I just say, hey, you need to co-sign that now, okay? Because she's right. You're definitely right about that. And once you discover that their method versus your method is not the same, I think that the next step to that is the hardest step for people, which is to tell the person that this may not be right. You know, like this may not be right for me. You know, a lot of people like to avoid conflict with people. They don't want to hurt the person's feelings. You know. Why you roll your eyes? You know, people don't like to hurt people's feelings.
I know, but when they are trying to avoid the truth at the early or onset stages of a relationship or potential relationship, by avoiding it, they're setting themselves up for issues that are 99.9% guaranteed to happen due to that same thing that they were trying to avoid in the first place. And it's just like, just stick with the facts. You know who you are. You know what you like. You know what you don't like. You know if you can deal with it or not. It's okay. Find someone else. Because that's where all of the heartache starts to add up, the hurt feelings, the miscommunication, and then now later on in a relationship, you're really tied into it because your heart is involved, and time and effort and money and maybe a kid. Yeah, that avoidance at the beginning is what usually sets people up for failure.
Yeah.
99.9% of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about 99.9 point. Yeah, that usually does that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But hey, it's just one of those things about your emotions sometimes when you, and this again depends on the person. If you lock into a particular person, that person's showing you all the right signs and giving you all the right vibes, and depending on the stage that you're in your life, depending on that stage, that person could be showing you something that you've been looking for a long time, you know. Then you got to fight against yourself to just tell that person, hey, I know you're showing me these things. These things look great. And I appreciate you for this. Okay. I appreciate you for showing me these things. But this may not be right for us right now. Okay. And then you just give them all the reasons why this may not be right for us right now. Hey, I would say it's just that simple, but it's not. Okay. Yeah. It's not. Okay. Like you're gonna have to have that conversation with yourself a few times before you have that conversation with them. Okay. Like A, B, you might have to write it out. Okay. Like get you a little letter, write it out. Just in case you get in front of that person, you lock up. Okay, you don't want to do that. Okay, you want to communicate everything that you need to talk to this person about. Okay. Because again, if it's somebody they're not gonna work for you, this is not the person that you ultimately want to be with. They showing you some things that, again, are great. They showing you some things that, you know, might be functional, but there's some things that just, yeah, you might want to have that conversation. I know that was kind of random, but it just kind of happened. Okay. All right.
I know. Yeah, I knew that we were going left at some point. So. Comedy.
Let's put it in there. Just a little bit, you know. But
that's true though.
It is.
It is. You know? I would concur. So, final thoughts. What are my final thoughts? Friendship, I think it is necessary when it comes to being in a committed relationship for the long term. I think friendship is necessary. I do. Like being friends with a person, really learning about that person, really like liking and loving that person. I think is necessary because I think sometimes based on like longevity in certain relationships, it's not every relationship, but I think that sometimes depends on how long you've been with a person. uh, Some things are just tolerated. Like you just tolerate certain things with a person. And I think that kind of affects the way that you view that person, even also feel like the way that you feel about that person over time. And that's kind of why I think friendship is so important, because it allows you, if you are like close friends or have a certain level of friendship in your relationship, it allows you that freedom, even when you're bothered by something, to actually go like literally go talk to that person and sit down, like actually have a conversation that is not an argument with that person, because you're talking to that person about something that's sensitive to you, and solve a problem, versus being afraid to talk to that person because the last two times they done used this information in a negative way towards you, and now you don't want to have a conversation no more. Like, so that's my take is like friendship is important, but friendship is something that also evolves too over time. Like in evolution, hopefully that friendship grows, it gets better, it gets bigger. Yeah, it that you find ways to kind of get to know the new person, because people change every day, every year. People change. So hopefully whenever you get into that situation with that person, you are friends with that person, don't stop learning about that person. Just don't do it.
That's important.
Yeah. I know I said a lot, but what you guys got?
Um, in a relationship or trying to be in a relationship, know that some things you're gonna have to change, or you may have to change. It's not cool, or in my opinion, to say take this who I am, just taking me who I am, when you chose to be in a relationship with the other person, and so you can find a balance on what will work for the both of you. um Also, on the flip side of it is, if you're a person receiving that information, then you might need to think about if that's a person you really want to be in a relationship with, and they just tell you to take them as they are, they not changing, this is this. um are you are you really willing to do that? Are you really willing to accept if they got this bad behavior and they know they need to change it anyway, but they're not gonna change it because basically what they're telling you is take me who I am, or you'll get over that type of, if they have that type of mentality. um People change, they evolve every day, so therefore, you know um you need to understand that you're not the person you was yesterday. Friendship, in my opinion, is important. It's very important. To me, friendship develops that boundary. It develops that trust. So if you're a person that has to have that friendship and stuff, so just know that, if the trust broken, the boundary broken, then you have to figure out, like, are we gonna continue to be friends and we just gonna start being associates? Like, it's a lot of things to all of this. So I think the best sums this up is know who you are first.
Good
Uh,
stuff.
yeah, the mic is open. Go for it, Nrgy. Go for it.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Regarding friendship, if just kind of keeping it simple and understanding just some of the many qualities or traits of a friendship, being someone that you can, or two people that can rely on each other, where there's trust involved, there's support involved. I'm trying to think of something else to add, but anyway, just leaving it at those few things. If that is part of basic foundations of what constitutes a a good friendship, then definitely why would you not want that to be a part of your relationship? Because all of those qualities, along with so many others, you would want, or one would want that in their relationship as well, especially if the idea and goal is to have a long-term healthy relationship where both people can be open and vulnerable, and again, just keeping that reliability factor involved throughout the time, throughout their time of being together. And so if that's the case, then friendship to me is important when going into a relationship, because those qualities are, they're amazing.
Yeah, they are. So another episode, Adding Perspective with Josh. I'm Josh.
I'm Coach Nrgy.
I'm Aphrodite.